Welcome to the Existential Empath Podcast. My name is Tanya, and I am an intuitive empath. My intention is to share valuable tools and techniques that I have learned so you can tap into your own inner healer naturally and intuitively. Welcome back, everyone. I thought I'd jump on here and do a quick podcast about the void, because collectively we are in the space of the void right now. And this is a point that's existing between the old and the new. And many of us are beginning to sense this. We're beginning to sense that there's a big change on the horizon, but we may not necessarily see it in the physical yet, but we can feel it in the energetic. And there isn't any evidence of it occurring, but we just know deep down in our soul that there is a big shift coming. And when we are in these states of the void, it's really imperative that we disconnect and separate ourselves to allow ourselves to observe. And this is where the power of our free will of choice can come into play. So we have a choice to choose old patterns, old habits, old timelines that no longer serve us, or we have a choice to focus on the higher vibrational pattern or timeline that we would like to anchor ourselves into. So the past may no longer feel like a part of you, or it may even we may even perceive those past situations differently. And it's very important to avoid entertaining these harsh feelings about it, like resentment or bitterness or getting trapped in the past. You may even recognize that people from your past that you thought you let go of are now starting to resurface. And this is presenting itself to see, what timeline are you going to choose? Are you going to choose an older past version of yourself, or are you going to choose a higher vibrational version of yourself? Or are there things that you need to heal from the past that maybe you avoided that are now coming up to the surface to for you to give attention to, so you can now let that tether, that anchor go, to allow you to freely flow into a higher, more aligned version of yourself. So you want to make sure that you are really anchoring yourself in to the timeline that you want to be in, because just before you reach that higher level of consciousness, these old fears will begin to resurface, and they aren't necessarily there to trap you. It's actually the opposite. The universe wants to show you that your old patterns no longer have power over you anymore. And you can actually use that as contrast. You can see yourself in this now moment. And if you are not reacting the same way as you did in the past, then you know that you have advanced, you have healed, you have moved on from those emotional patterns from your past. And you can only transcend your fears in the very moment when they are active. So when those fears begin to come to the surface and you recognize them, then that's when you can either move through them and process them, or you can observe them and say, wow, I've actually really healed. I've done the inner work. I'm not being triggered by that person or that situation anymore like I used to. And that shows how much growth I've actually gone through since I was in that particular time in my life. And if you can really trust your ability to awaken deeper, then you will even transcend even more. So consciously observing these past emotions, feelings, people, situations that may be presenting themselves to you in the void will allow you the opportunity to really either dive deeper into healing those past patterns or habits, or it can allow you to say, nope, that's not for me anymore. And I'm going to transcend into a higher version of myself. And so this is where the universe wants you to remember to trust yourself. Okay. So, this is where your intuition comes into play. And this is what my entire podcast is about, is learning how to tap into your inner healer, your inner guidance system, your inner intuition, and really trusting that these lessons are coming forward for a reason. And trust is one of the main qualities needed in this path of awakening. And so we're beginning to be presented with these choice points or timeline convergences, so to speak. And we are shifting our vibration and moving into these higher vibrational timelines, but it all depends on what we choose to do. We have a choice to either engage and anchor ourselves into the past timelines that we have gone through, or we have a choice to turn our heads and move in a new direction that is in more alignment with who we are, that feels good to us, that brings prosperity, that brings joy, that brings abundance into our lives. And remember, there's no judgment when we're going through this process. Really, it's just observation. We want to observe where we were, where we are now, and where we want to be going, all at the same time, because all of these timelines are merging into one timeline for us, and we have a choice. It's like a road. If you're on a road trip, right? So say you want to drive from the East Coast to the West Coast, you have a multitude of choices of ways to go. You can take back roads and scenic highways, or which may take a little bit longer, or you can take the expressway, which is faster, but you may not see as much beauty in that. So when we're looking at timelines in our life, you want to kind of compare it in that way. Do you want to take a more slower, calmer, scenic route, through your healing process, or would you prefer to just fast track it and move right on through? And that's not the spiritual bypassing. I'm not talking about that. That's a totally different concept. That's where you're just like, I just want to close my eyes, like, and then, in point A, and then open my eyes and be in point B. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking more about, we have a choice to choose the path that we want to take, and we can shift that path at any given moment. But when we're in the void in between timelines is one of the best times to do that, because we can sit back, disconnect, and really observe where we have been and where we want to go. And so when this happens, the universe will begin to show you the true colors and intentions of certain people and situations in your life, because depending on your choice, they may not be a vibrational match anymore, and they cannot move into that higher timeline with you. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't choose to do the inner work and then eventually they catch up, but each and every one of us is allowed that opportunity to pick which frequency we want to be in at any given time based off of our emotions and where we are in that current moment. And so, by letting go of these relations that we no longer resonate with, we are transitioning into our most desired timeline. And, the truth is being revealed to us every single day, because the universe is giving us opportunities to either let go of old relationships that no longer serve us, or to dive back into them and maybe reestablish them in a new way, in a way where you have a more healthy relationship together. And I'm recognizing this in my life, that, I had relationships in the past, even with friends, where we would go out and drink and party and have fun. And I'm just not in that frequency anymore. I'm in the frequency of having fun, but I'm not in the frequency of going out and getting blitzed and having a good time. But that's okay. So they will come back into my life and say, hey, you want to go out and have drinks and whatnot. And the reality is I'm just not there anymore. I'm not really drinking. I'm fasting. I'm, walking meditations. I'm just in a completely different, time in my life where I'm taking care of myself, and the old ways of connecting with those friends are just no longer in alignment with me. However, with that said, when I use my voice and I speak up and say, hey, why don't we go for a walk together and we can talk? Or why don't we, maybe go sit at a coffee house and have a tea or something and talk? So, and if they don't align with that, or they don't want to do it, then that's their choice. But with that said, it's also my choice to speak up and say, hey, I don't resonate with that anymore. However, here's where I'm at, and I'd love to connect with you. So if you'd love to connect with me too on, this level, then I'd love to have you here. So it's really just based off of our choice. And we've got to speak up in these areas as well. We can't just sit back and say, oh, I'm going to go with the old pattern and I'm going to go out and have drinks and go party it up and then not really talk about stuff that we were going to talk about. And then the next day I feel terrible. And then that just lowers your vibration and then anchors you back into an old timeline. And this is just an example. So don't take this to heart. This is just an example of something that I've been kind of recognizing in my life. So we have this opportunity to choose, do we want to anchor ourselves in to those past patterns or habitual roles that we've kind of been playing ourselves out throughout our entire lifetime. And then now, being in the void, it gives us that opportunity to really anchor ourselves in to the highest vibrational timeline that we want to. And then this is where our heart chakra comes into play. So we've got to kind of, really anchor ourselves into our hearts and say, what feels good to me? Does it feel good to go out and party with this friend? If it feels good, then go do it. If it doesn't feel good, then come up with another way that you two can connect together. And this could just be a friendship, it could be a romance, it could really be anything. But I'm also recognizing that a lot of my past relationships with men have also been resurfacing. They've been wanting to connect with me and they've been wanting to um, have that more sexual relationship. And I'm like, mm-mm. And I'm recognizing that's the way that they're leading in because that was what I was holding space for 10, 15 years ago, but I'm not in that energy anymore. I'm in the energy of holding my sexuality as sacred. And the next person that's coming into my life is also going to be holding that energy of sacred sexuality as well. And so it's important for me to be able to voice that and present that because that is the timeline that I want to anchor myself into. I want to attract someone in my life who honors my sexuality, who respects that, not someone who just wants to kind of, have a wham bam thank you ma'am and take off. And that may have been an old timeline that I was comfortable with, but I'm not in that reality anymore. I'm not in that vibrational frequency anymore. And so I am empowering myself and holding my energy in those areas. And when these men come back in and try to slip in that way, and this could be women too, I'm not dogging on the men. This could be women too, coming back in and wanting to connect in a more sexual way first, then I am, just kind of holding my space there and saying, hey, let's connect in a different way. Let's try to, break these patterns of trauma bonding or sexual bonding, and let's connect in a different way. And, maybe that will lead to sacred sexuality later down the path. I don't know. But the reality is I have a choice. I have a choice to either dive back in to those old patterns of myself or to hold my ground and to really embellish and surround myself in my own empowerment and being able to stand firmly in that. So, uh, are you all recognizing these things in your life? Are you recognizing these old patterns coming up to the surface? Do you feel the void? Do you feel that we are in the middle of this transitionary stage and we are moving ourselves into our next step? We are allowing our old self and our old reality to kind of just dissolve away. And it may not make sense to us anymore. It's just not there anymore. When certain people come back into my life and then they want to connect in an old way, I'm just like, oh, wow, I'm just not even there at all. And so maybe you're recognizing that too. And that's just a really good kind of reflection of where we are, how we've grown, and how we've done the inner work, and how we've healed the trauma, and how we've moved through those emotional triggers. And I'm even recognizing that when certain people come into my life that used to really push my buttons and really push my triggers, I'm not being triggered anymore. I'm just recognizing that, I was in a space of wanting and seeking love so desperately that I was being triggered so badly. And now I'm in a space where I have filled my own love tank, so to speak, and I can hold love for myself. And I don't need to siphon love from them that then in return would cause me to be triggered through abandonment, rejection, jealousy, bitterness, resentment, whatever it may be. And now I'm just able to hold space in myself because I recognize that all of the love that I need is within inside of me. And someone who comes into my life will bring an enhancement to that love. It won't be someone that I need to constantly be seeking their love to fill my tank because I've already filled my own tank. And so through these transitions, be aware of the several small choice points that present itself to you in your everyday life. And, these choices are going to determine that larger choice and what is going to lead you down a path of either least resistance or more resistance, right? And it's inevitable that we're all going to jump into these higher timelines if we intend it to be so. So just be more aware of that. Be more conscious of, you know, if I make this choice to connect with this person, what does that look like? And visualize it. Maybe visualize yourself with several different timelines and say, okay, so if I make this choice to connect in an old way, is it going to go down the same old timeline that I don't want it to? Or if I make this choice to connect with a person in a different way, what does that timeline look like? Does it lead back to the old choice or does it lead to a new choice? And so it really is allowing us to, find our way, feel our way through it, and just like a trip, right? You're like, okay, I'm driving down a back road and then, oh, look, there's a pretty meadow over there. Let's take a right and see where that road goes. Oh, wow, look, this meadow leads to a waterfall. That's beautiful. Okay, there's another road over here. Oh, look, this meadow or this road leads to a park. Oh my gosh, look where we are. If we hadn't gotten off the main highway, we would have never known that these other beautiful areas are back here. But we made a choice to take a right turn or a left turn. And that's very similar to how timelines function in our lives. And so just being really observant in this time right now when we are in this void can be very helpful in how we are anchoring ourselves in to these higher dimensional realities and allowing ourselves to let go of these relationships, of these situations, of these old outdated patterns or these subconscious programs that we no longer want to play into, whether there's scenarios of fear coming up or abandonment or rejection. There is always the opportunity to feel into our hearts and say, okay, does this feel good to me? If it doesn't feel good, then don't do it. If it doesn't feel good, don't do it. Do what feels good to you, what feels good in your body and what resonates. And so we are moving in to these higher frequencies and we are being pushed, so to speak, to release these old patterns, to release these old emotions. And they could present themselves in depression, anxiety, frustration, anger, if we are not in alignment with the timeline that we are meant to be on. And when we are on the timeline that we are meant to be on, we will recognize it in our bodies because, when something is meant for you, it will bring clarity and alignment to your life. It will not bring chaos and confusion. And when something is definitely meant for you, it will not run or hide or avoid being yours. It will present itself very clearly, very easily, and very gracefully. So you don't have to chase after anything or anyone. And if you are doing that, then you are not in alignment with your highest path. And you won't feel the need to beg, convince, or force anything because things will feel easy to you. You'll feel grounded. You'll feel safe. And when something is for you, it is not meant to make you question or second guess your self-worth. It will remind you of how worthy and how loved that you are. So when we really hold that space in our heart and we ask ourselves, okay, this person is coming back up from my past. How does this make me feel? Does it make me feel worthy and loved? Or does it make me feel, unworthy and unloved? Ask yourself that question. If it makes you feel unworthy and unloved, then there's a choice. A choice is to not engage with that person. That is an old lesson that's coming up to show you, hey, look where you were before. Are we still there today? And if you're not still there today, then it's time to move on and to take a new path. And when something is for you, it will feel healthy. It will feel supportive. It won't feel toxic. It won't feel narcissistic. It won't feel energy depleting. It won't feel unhealthy. It will feel very good. So just don't ignore the signs when they're coming up. Your body is giving you those signs. If you're feeling like a sickness in your stomach or a tightness in your heart or maybe a tightness in your throat, then it is showing you that something needs to be released. Something needs to have some attention towards it to be healed and to be released and to be let go. So that way you can receive what is meant for you to receive. And in this void is the time to do it. Now, when I say this void, it's not like just today, right? We are in these voids all the time, all these, choice points that we have. But right now, I'm really feeling collectively, many of us are in these choice points. And this could pertain to a job as well, right? Maybe you're in a job that is just not resonating with you anymore, but you don't know what the next step is. You don't know how to get out of this unfulfilling, job that makes you feel unworthy, and you don't know how to step in to the next timeline. This is where the observation in the void is so helpful. So just kind of detaching from it and asking yourself, what things do bring me joy? What am I good at? How can I do more of that in my life? Maybe I enjoy being creative and I haven't had the opportunity to be creative in this job. And that's why I feel like I'm being drained. Okay, well, what are some things that you can do to feel more creative in your life? And take out the job scenario. Just really start focusing more on things that bring you joy and allow you to be more creative in your spare time. And when you're in that creative state of flow, more information, more inspiration, more motivation will come to you in those times. It's when you're in the states of restriction or resistance when it's really difficult for those inspirational ideas to flow with ease to you. So taking a step away from the resistance of the job and in your spare time, doing things that bring, more flow into your life, whether that's taking a walk in nature or painting or maybe going rock climbing or jumping on your four-wheeler, whatever it may be, getting out there and doing things that make you happy and bring you joy are going to bring more inspiration and more ideas into your reality. So then you can find new ways to anchor yourself into a higher vibrational version of yourself. Okay, so I hope that this was helpful for you. This is definitely what I'm experiencing right now. And I thought that it would be beneficial to share some of this. I also want to kind of note that when we raise our frequency, we don't have to do as much. Okay, instead of trying to change our outer world so much, it's so imperative for us to change our inner world, to go within and to heal those aspects of ourself. And the moment we do that and we are in alignment, things will flow to us very, very easily. And this is how we collapse these timelines, is by going within, and observing, all the different timelines that we can perceive. Okay, we can perceive ourselves going down this path, we can perceive ourselves going down this path, what may happen here, or this other path, what may happen here. And so, when we rise to meet our reality that we've already created in the energetic realm, we can begin to manifest it in the physical when we start to take action on those things. So we've got to follow our joy. We've got to follow our passion. And that will give us the energy that we need to move through these areas. And people say, well, I'm drained, I'm exhausted, I'm this, I'm that. Well, the reality is then you're not following your joy, because when you're following your joy, you are completely full of energy. You have this beautiful essence about you. So if you're not, full of energy, or you're feeling drained, then you are not following your joy. So find things that you can do that will make you laugh, that will make you happy. And that could just be as simple as relaxing, going out and just sitting in your backyard and relaxing. If that brings you joy, that will also bring you energy. And, what is easy for someone may not be the same for somebody else. So you've got to really figure out what it is that makes you happy and what brings you that sense of elation in your life. And I think it's really important to not copy what others are doing. If someone else is doing something and you're trying to mimic them, and it's draining you, then that is not following your joy. So finding your own path and creating your own path. And I know that can be really scary sometimes, creating your own path, because not everyone is a leader. Sometimes people feel a little bit more inclined to follow. And I've been in those situations in my life where there's times I feel guided to lead and sometimes I feel guided to follow. But there's those times when I have to step into that leadership role within myself and pave my own way and pave my own path. And when you are doing that, you are standing in your own unique authenticity. And when you're doing that, you will be attracting anything and everything that you need in your life. But until you find the courage to be able to do that and to stand in your own power, then you will be continually following the path of others. And that doesn't mean that you can't see what others are doing and take little bits and pieces from that to create your own reality, right? But to completely follow someone else's path is not standing in your own authenticity, in your own genuine aspect of yourself. So I do encourage you to, figure out what comes easily to you, because that will uplift you. And that will also show who you are from your truest soul expression. And if you haven't found that, you might be trying just too hard, or you might be judging yourself or taking on too much resistance. And we are all learning how to trust, right? And trust the universe, trust our intuition, trust our internal guidance system. And when we learn how to do that, the best way to do it is through play, is to do things that feel joyful, that feel playful, almost like a child, right? Because children are so trusting. And when we find, things that we can do to play and have a good time and to let go of the burdens, to let go of the heaviness, even if it's for 5 minutes, then it allows us to open our hearts to trust just a little bit more. So, I encourage you to, bring more fun in your life, bring more play in your life. And it doesn't, need to feel restricted. It doesn't need to feel planned or scheduled. Just do it on a whim. Do it spontaneously. If you don't have someone else there to do it with you, then do it yourself. Go out and do something fun and, laugh and bring a smile to your face. And that's going to lift that heavy restrictive energy off of you to allow more flow and more ease into your life. So I send you all so much uplifting energy, and I, send you clarity as well, because I know right now in this void, that's what we're all looking for, is some clarity and some guidance and some balance, right? I know that's what I've been looking for. So if clarity is what you need, then I send that to you right now. And spend some time alone, spend some time in nature, spend some time playing, and spend some time in joy. Take care. You deserve to navigate your life as an empath in alignment with health, happiness, and abundance. To learn more about the services that I provide, including Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis, EFT Tapping, and the Emotion Code, visit my website at www.thesoulcafe.org.